What brings me personal joy is resilience. It is facing adversity head on, fear or not, but having the courage to move forward, to pick yourself up when you fall down, dust yourself off, and keep moving in spite of attacks, in spite of challenges, in spite of adversity, resilience. And moving forward brings me joy because what I get from that is strength. What I get from that is wisdom. And what I get for that is purpose, knowing that competently and confidently, there is nothing that can stop me when I'm ready to move forward.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Christina Kishimoto, and welcome to Under the Flamboyan. I'm so excited. This December 2025 edition, I have an incredible guest. I have Dr. Kimberly McLeod, who is the president-elect of NABSE, and so much more. We're going to learn all about her today. Welcome, Kimberly.
Oh, thank you. So glad to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
So you and I have talked a little bit, but I have not seen you since what was it, August in Annapolis at the Leaders of Color Conference. That was a great event, and it was just great to just be able to interact with you.
Thank you. It was an honor hearing you and speaking with you and learning from you. And I hope this moment we have together, we can plant seeds to not only nourish each other, but nourish every listener that tunes in.
Well, this is a wonderful thing about having a space where women can kind of log in, hear from some of our leaders across the country. We're so excited to feature you. It's crazy time though, right? It's been a tough semester, tough year nationally, in our organizations, but we all bring so much hopefulness to the work that lies ahead. And we know sometimes conflict is what we need to push us boldly to that next step. And I wonder if you could just tell us, what have you been up to? You have this like incredible background in K-12 and higher ed and in organizations. You've been a leader in Texas and nationally. What has this semester been like for you?
You know, it's been a semester of focus, trying to understand what's most important, prioritizing and protecting what's most important from distractions that can pull you in any and every direction, and understanding what's a distraction and what was brought to you to intentionally interrupt your journey to put you on the course to move forward. And with that, I have enjoyed spending time with my young adult young men now, three boys, focusing on preparing NABSE, the National Alliance of Black School Educators, for next steps forward. And then I've been busy writing grants. So written about six of them in the past 3 months. But keeping the main thing.
It's so funny every time we say we're gonna be focused. You use the word focus. Sometimes we think that means we're gonna be very intentional and slow down a bit, and kind of zone in on a few areas. It just seems to grow though. We're just so busy. And in your response right away, we can see how many kind of hands in different pots you have. But I'm so glad that you're enjoying your time with your own children, with your own boys, because we know that even as they grow up, they still need their moms, they still need their families, and we need them so much as well. I love spending my time with my adult daughter as well. She's an inspiration for me now as I was for her growing up. And I love hearing your stories about your family. Thank you for sharing that. We have young people in this nation that are looking to us as leaders, to really help them to understand what's happening around them, but also to bring the hopefulness that as they pursue their areas of interest, that they're going to be okay, and that the world around them is going to be okay, and they're going to be able to lead in these incredible ways. And so, what are the things that you are most focused on through your leadership roles, like the role at NAPSE and other roles that you have?
Yeah. And thank you for that question and even mentioning my boys. And when I reflect on that question and I look at where my boys are, even though they're in university now, the challenges with me being an educator with years of experience and what 4 or 5 degrees, we still stumbled in dealing with mindsets of marginalization and the outcomes that that has on them on a conscious and an unconscious level. It's a real awakening when you realize you're not your only child's teacher and they're learning from the environment around them. I say that to say my boys had me. And for families that don't have someone that understands the challenges of some of the um, things that will be placed in front of our children to navigate through, they have to depend on us and what happens on your watch and my watch. And the things that are happening now, it's happening on our watch and what we have to do now to protect where they are, where the young people are now, and where they will be. Everything that we do, we have to do with intentionality and with purpose. And so, with that, understanding are all of our kids ready to read by third grade? Are we addressing absenteeism, whether it's through illness or in school, out of school suspension, which is problematic for minoritized populations in public schools? Are our kids, do they have access to dual credit, to advanced placement, to algebra so that they can get to calculus by the time they graduate high school? Do they understand FAFSA at the university level? How are we focusing on persistence and progression and readiness? And so, in all of those areas, education associations like NABSE brings together different stakeholders that volunteer, whether they're teachers, superintendents, policymakers, influencers. How can we invest our collective and collaborative intellectual capacity and positions to ensure all children, especially those that are furthest away from our North Star of success, have the opportunity to experience life success? And so, working from that on a volunteer basis through organizations like NABSE, partnering with organizations like ALAS and the National Education Indian Association, knowing that we are in this world together, we share it together. What can we do together so that all of our children have access and opportunity for success on our
I'm
watch?
yeah, I'm glad that you first of all your focus and your intention is about the ways in which our young people need to be supported and provided a pathway for success. And
Mhm.
that brings a lot of hopefulness, right, in your message. And I really appreciate that. There is this other conversation that you and I were both part of back in August that was very encouraging. And that was the conversation around how does NAYA and ALAS and NABSE, as you mentioned, those three organizations, how do those organizations that really represent a voice that often has been left on the fringe historically in some policy matters and organized in order not to be in the on the fringe, right? But to be at the center of these conversations about all students. What's your vision, right? Even as you think about your role coming in as president-elect into the presidency, what's your vision for how those three organizations can really help to change the conversation around what's done together? What is leverage in this power of a united front to be at the table with others, to really focus on all students?
Yeah, there is. When I was president of TABSE, the Texas Alliance of Black School Educators, I would tell our members that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And we have got to get our communities off of this menu because looking at data alone, it is eating our students alive. And with Naya, with Alice, even AASA, we all want the same thing. We want our students to be successful. Nobody goes into this job saying, I want people to fail. We want everyone to be successful. How we do that is what matters. And realizing that there are uniqueness in those three organizations, but there are a lot of commonalities and coming together to understand how we collaborate together as it relates to policy, how we collaborate together as it relates to practice, how we collaborate together as it relates to preparation. How are we preparing leaders? How are we practicing research-based practices that we know works? How do we give voice when one group is needing support? How do we come together with a joint letter, with joint impact? How do we bring those resources together, not to move one organization forward, to move all of them forward? And I think there's power and there's strength in numbers. It's hard to ignore all of our voices.
It
And,
is,
you
especially
know,
when we're working together. And I think the point that you just made about there are things that bring us together that are similar experiences, but it's also the fact that we have so much diversity, not just across groups, but within groups.
yes,
And so when we talk about the black educator doesn't look like the next black educator. There's so much diversity
yeah,
in the black experience. When we think about our Hispanic community, there are 21 nations represented in the Hispanic community. When we talk about our native nations, our Indian community and our reservations, our tribes are not similar. They're not one and the same. They have such unique and incredible culture and experiences. And so it's in that diversity that we have so much power and so much what I call beauty that
yeah.
we can represent to the world when we work in the collective. But I do have this question, Kimberly, and I don't expect you to have the answer in absolute terms because if anybody had the answer, perhaps we would be in a better place.
Place.
But certainly when things are politically and policy-wise difficult nationally, like we are now in the year 2025, has been very challenging from a national perspective, from a policy and political front. Uh, it can mean that we're better at turning to others to say, let's get together and figure this out. When things are going well and we're seeing success, sometimes we go back to our various kind of isolated silos. What are your thoughts about how we change that so that there is a more unified front, both when things are good and when things are challenging, in just recognizing our common humanity and our common interests here?
Yeah. I think we have to embed our goals within each organization, almost like a hybrid plant. And there's this African proverb that says, even branches of a tree aren't foolish enough to fight amongst each other, and realize that if we are this hybrid plan, and we really are, there are Afro-Latinos, there are African Americans that have Native American ancestry. I mean, we are really this hybrid of a tree. And understanding if we are growing together, even if we have different branches, there are commonalities that should anchor us. And the consistency of that anchor means even when leadership changes, even when the seasons change, the tree stays planted and it stays rooted. So embedding our policies, our desired outcomes, our advocacy, our needs, our challenges, our successes. If you are successful, we should celebrate. If we're successful, we should invite you to that and share this is how we got here. In fact, we're on our way into another direction. Would you like to join us as we are preparing for community advocacy or leadership preparation or identifying schools that are demonstrating incredible practices with insurmountable challenges? What are they doing? Let's share that with each other. I told you I was writing grants. I've already written all three organizations into three or four of those grants. And so that it's a collaborative learning how we do that. Um, the reality is you can't teach what you don't know. And if we don't know how to do it, we can't build it, we can't teach it, we can't pass it on. So it is imperative that people in your position, my position, and those that are leading Alice and Naya come together now so that we can embed, create our hybrid when we sit down for that tree to still be anchored and rooted.
Yeah, I love that analogy because at Voice for Equity we use what is the flamboyant tree as a representative of coming together unified as women, diverse women under the tree to lock arms and solve together, design together, and that's what you're talking about. You know, as you're going into the presidency. Yeah, you're grabbing the baton from Latanya Gaffney, and she grabbed the baton from Nardos King before her. And there's just a long 53-year history, right?
Yeah.
At NABSE. Do I have that correct? Yes,
Yeah.
53-year history
Yeah.
at NABSE. And I believe Naya is has about 54 or 52 years of history, very close to NABSE. I mean, these are like long histories of leadership in this work, very intentional work and leadership in this work. Kimberly, what do you want to most focus on as you go into the 2026 school year and beyond?
So, one of the areas of focus as we move forward, and when I am sworn in as president, I want to bolster our research activity. The research activity brings credibility to not just coming together, but the evidence of why coming together matters and makes a difference. That research also should be a supportive foundation to advocate for policy, not based upon our hearts or our guts, but this is the evidence of why we are advocating for these policy shifts and narratives. We have to look forward to establishing a research institute. We want to integrate that international travel for those that choose to understand education best practices on a global level. And we also want to start a research institute specifically focused on research for those that want to understand best practices that are current and relevant, as well as those that have investigated that and are ready to share that. We're going to focus as well as a National Education Policy Institute known as NEPI. And with that, we will be training our volunteers and members on advocacy and community organization. It's not enough to just wait for policy to shift in our direction. We have to create the voice and we've got to move the needle instead of waiting for the needle or someone hoping that they would move it for us. And so the National Education Policy Institute will begin training that, working with legislators, walking the Hill, creating policy points and narratives. And we want to pull that together. In addition, we're going to strengthen our National Teacher Institute for those that are doing the groundwork. We're going to have additional programming that is year round from webinars. And then lastly, we already do this very well, but I want to add to it partnerships for those that are aspiring into the superintendency, aspiring into administration or principalship. Textbook theory only teaches you maybe 2% of the reality of living and working in that. And we have a wealth of mentors around the world. We're an international organization that can contribute to leadership development. But I want to partner with higher ed. So for those that want that, they also have the opportunity to earn their doctoral degree. And we have about two partners that are in line ready to support those initiatives.
Well, Dr. Kimberly, thank you for your tremendous work and the vision you're continuing to bring to NABSE and to all your partner organizations that you work with. I want to close with what I typically ask our guests, which is what is your advice for women who are considering executive leadership, whether at an organization level, K-12 at the superintendency, or are aspiring and have always had a vision becoming a college president? What's your advice to them about pursuing leadership and seeing themselves there?
So, a couple of things. I'm going to give you two quotes. One of them, someone shared this with me when I was transitioning from K-12 to higher ed. And it was a difficult decision for me. And this mentor, she said to me, Kim, big ships weren't built to stay in harbor. And you got to have the courage to set sail, to leave what is comfortable, to go into what may not be known. The other part of this, I think it was Theodore Roosevelt that said, smooth seas never delivered a strong sailor. And I'm saying that when you go out into the ocean, you've got to expect that it's going to be some turbulent waters. And if you can't handle life turbulence, then you need to stay in harbor. You've got to be able to understand challenges are going to come. They're not going to go around you. And you've got to know how to go through them. And if you want to get into leadership, you've got to realize punches are going to come and they will be unfair punches. They will be attacks that you don't deserve, but it doesn't mean that they won't come. And you've got to be able to know how to navigate, move forward with integrity and resilience in spite of. You can't muzzle your life because you're afraid of what someone may say or what someone may do. Because you're gonna come face to face with that in leadership. There's no getting around that. And all that to say, leave the harbor, but be prepared for the storm.
Love that advice. Kimberly, I appreciate you. I appreciate your leadership, your friendship, your collegiality. I wish you the best as you kind of take the helm as president and continue to inspire and work with others. Thank you for being with us today. I want to remind our audience that the registration for When Women Lead, which is in June 2026, we are back in Vancouver, Washington. Registration is open. NABSE kicks off in just a couple of days here, and so we will see you there. Kimberly, you and I had talked back in August. I'm going to hold you to this. I expect to see you with us in
Yes,
June
ma'am.
at When Women Lead, so you can bring your inspiring words and also just have your cup filled by the amazing women who come together in trust and safety and in just excitement about leading in this country today. We expect to have incredible inroads in the policy work that ensures equity and justice for all of our young people throughout the nation. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.